right, I will get my screen shared here and then we'll give it another minute or so, see if anybody else joins. We will be capturing the recording here, so this will be posted on the YouTube channel as well. Let's see here. So then, and while we do wait, if anybody will be tweeting out in regards to this PD series, please do use the hashtag Extempore PD. And then we also do have a lot more sessions coming up. So feel free to check out the calendar to see if any others might catch your interest here to sign up for. So let me come back to the screen. So for this session, it's going to be focused on Extempore 101. So really just the basics of what Extempore is, how to get started. And then we will show both the teacher side and the student side once we have something created. So for anybody who isn't familiar, Extempore, we started this back in 2016. Really, our goal at the time was just to help solve the logistical challenge that language educators face when doing oral assessments. So it started as the speaking practice and assessment app for languages, but we've definitely expanded to quite a few other options. So it is still focused on the languages, but you could have written responses. We do have multiple choice as well. So without further ado, I will get started here. So when you're getting started with Extempore, you can create as many classes as you would like. Classes are really just folders that are going to store assessments, as well as enroll students or a group of students who can access those assignments. So we'll just add a new class here. This will just be our Extempore 101 class. And then we'll hit next. So for step 2, we're creating our first assessment, which we do call them assessments, but that could really be any type of assignment, where I would look at assessment as more of the high stakes because it does have that capabilities with those timers as well. So we'll just name this first assignment. And then I will touch on each option down the line here. So for the start time and the due time, that determines when students or when this will be available to students. So if you do schedule the start time at a future date, you're essentially proctoring this asynchronously because students cannot access any information until that date or time hits. And then for the due time, by default, that is related to when this assignment is considered late. So students can still complete outside of the due date. It will be labeled red as late. Otherwise, if you do not want to be accepting late work, we recently added an account preference here to not allow late work so that students cannot access outside of the due date. So I'm just going to bump this back an hour. And then we're mainly going to stay focused on the individual type of assessments here for the one-to-one. So that really mimics kind of that face-to-face assessment you would have been doing otherwise. We do have group assignments as well. Those might be either asynchronous or they might be synchronous groups where students are connecting kind of like a Zoom breakout room while you're capturing that recording to grade and give the feedback after. So next would be, how do we want students to be responding to this assignment? So the options here would either be audio or video if it is a speaking assignment, or if you do want to get students speaking more. Otherwise, you have text for the written responses. And then because we are so focused on assessments and just the integrity of them, a few things to note here is with any text or written responses, we have disabled the ability for students to copy paste. So it does ensure anything collected for written responses was actually typed by the student. And then in terms of audio video, generally we see audio being used for more practice speaking assignments, because it does tend to decrease the speaking anxiety for students compared to when they do see themselves on video. But video is handy when it's high stakes. That way you know it's the right student and that they're not reading from a script. So if you're new to Extempore, you're just getting things set up, you might just hit next here, add a set of questions for students to respond to. Before I do move on to that step though, I'm just going to show all parameters and just show what those additional options might be if you do want to be grading this assignment or determining when those grades will be published. So assessment description, pretty straightforward, just letting students know what this assignment is all about. Next would be, when will students see their grades? So the default is immediate while I'm grading, which means as you grade and provide feedback to each individual question, then the student can actually review that grade and feedback immediately. So if this was more of a high stakes test or quiz, you probably don't want one student seeing grades and feedback before others. So then that would be the reason to select manual, and then you have control to publish the grades and feedback whenever you're ready. Recently, we did include the option here for randomizing the question order. So let's say you have an assessment with 10 questions. If you do select randomize the question order, then those 10 questions will just be randomly organized per student. The next step to the randomizing questions that is planned will be to allow for essentially having a question bank of maybe 10 questions, but then let's say 5 questions are randomized per student from that question bank. If you are going to be scoring this assignment, you can say yes for numeric score. That is going to snap open the customizable rubric. And then over time, you can be saving rubrics, and then you can access them quickly to reuse in this dropdown here. Otherwise, the first time through, you might just be creating something. So we'll just say grammar. You can adjust the points from 1 to 10. And then you can add up to 5 different slots for the criteria. So we'll add vocab here as well. And then we'll drop it down to the very last step here. So the limitations extempore, it means spontaneous in Latin. And then these limitations are really our big differentiator on how you can create that spontaneous environment for students to respond to. So you will have the ability to override these time limitations per question. So I will leave these just as the defaults here, but just to explain what each one of them means, limiting the time to review, that relates to how long the student can see the question before they automatically need to begin their response. Limiting the response time, it's all about just setting a maximum recording length for the students. If you do leave that as no, then they can record for however long they would like. And then the last step, you're either allowing students to re-record multiple times if it is practice. Otherwise, if you say no, then the expectation is that it's just a single attempt for the student. So again, I will be able to customize these limitations per question. So that way I'll create the first question untimed multiple attempt with the 2 of the following having those timers so that everyone can see what that looks like from the student's perspective. Let's see, let me check the chat real quick. So if you do immediate feedback, can you make adjustments and add more comments? Yes, so you can always continue to edit the feedback, adjust the comments. It's really just about whether the feedback is publishing immediately or if you're controlling when to publish. And on that note, actually, so let's say we do have published grades manually, and maybe 5 out of our 10 students have responded, and we've graded those 5 out of 10. So let's say we publish grades for those 5, and then the 5 other students complete the assessment afterwards. At that point, you've essentially reverted this back to publish immediately. So those next 5 students, the grades and feedback will just go back to them per question from there. Kay, let me know that is clear on the question you had asked there. Okay, so we'll hit next here. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create 4 different questions. So the first one will just make a simple icebreaker untimed question. Awesome, Kay, thank you. So we'll say Q1, watch and respond. And then I'm going to record an authentic video for this one. So we'll open up the video recorder. Hey students, we'll be using Extempore this semester. Please introduce yourself in your native language and explain how you learn best. So we'll use that video. And then at any point, you can turn a question into multiple choice. I'll wait for question number 4 to do that. Otherwise, we could override the limitations here. But again, for this one, we're going to give students as much time as they need, and we will allow them to re-record if they would like. So we'll just save and add another question. Q2, listen and respond. Now for this one, I'm going to upload an image while also recording some audio for some listening comprehension while students can see the graphic. So we'll upload that image from our computer. There we go. And then you might have an audio clip already saved to your computer, in which case you could just upload that audio clip as well to then tag it to this image. Otherwise, you can record something authentic on the spot as well. So we'll click on audio. Please tell me who Mariana is speaking with and who Juana is speaking with, and go into detail on what those two individuals are wearing. So we'll use that. I am going to override the limitations for this one. So I'm going to give the students 15 seconds to review. And then just note, whenever you include a video or audio for the question prompt, then the time to review is going to anchor itself on that video or audio. So for this example, the students will have 15 seconds after they've listened to this entire clip before their response begins automatically. For the question after this, I won't include video or audio, but I'll do the same exact time limitations. That way, when we view as a student, you can see those side by side. So we'll set a maximum recording length to 1 minute. And then I'm not going to allow the students to record multiple times so that it's just a single take. Save and add another for Q3. Now for both question 1 and 2, I've now utilized all of the different media options. Question 1, we just recorded a video. Question 2, we uploaded an image while recording some audio. So for this one, I'm just going to do a plain text question. So a good example might be if you did a vocabulary lesson and now you want students to start forming sentences using that vocabulary. So form a sentence using the vocab. And then we'll just plug in some dummy text for that. And again, we will set the same exact limitations as the previous question. With this one, there is no audio or video. So the student will have 15 seconds to prepare themselves as soon as they open the question. Again, with 1 minute for the maximum recording and no re-record for this one. So we will save and add one more question. Now for this last one, I am going to make it multiple choice, even though for all other questions on this assessment, students will be responding with audio because that's what I had determined at step number 2. So we'll just say Q4, what will the weather be like this weekend? And before I add the options, I'd say what makes multiple choice a little bit unique on Extempore is the ability to include multiple videos or multiple audio options for students so that it is more of a listening comprehension type of multiple choice question. And we do also randomly organize the options for students, which makes it very challenging for them to cheat or tell another student what the correct answer was, especially when it's video or audio. Of course, if it's an image or text, a little bit easier for them to maybe tell another student what the answer was. So we will add our choices here. And then for the sake of time, I am just going to add some text questions here. So we'll just say sunny. That is the correct answer. Cloudy. And for the last one, we'll just say rainy. So now that we have all of our choices and we have all 4 questions, I'm just going to hit next. And then that's going to bring me back into my Extempore 101 class page. And we now have a unique link, which would be shared with students to get them enrolled in the class. And you will see a list of students as they do connect. So before I open up that link, let me just click on the classes tab here at the top. So now you can see my 3 other sample classes and then Extempore 101 at the bottom. with the one assessment that we created. Now you can always drag and drop these on the list just to order them the way you would like. Otherwise, let's just click back. Oh, I see a question. So when you add a file, it can only be picture of text. No, so for the upload of a file, that could be an audio file, video file, image, or it could be an image of the text. And I think what you might be asking, Kay, is so PDFs and Word documents, those are two file types that are not currently supported. However, the way that we do expand the image for students, if you do just take a screenshot of that PDF or Word document, as long as it is just a single page, it does actually expand to half of the screen for that student's device. So, good question. Okay, so let's open this class back up. And then you always have the ability to view as a student directly from your instructor account. However, we do disable when you do submit something from that teacher student account, it's not going to show up in the grading like it will for all of your other students. Reason being is that was just creating some issues when teachers were wanting to come and edit the assignment or really just change anything. They were needing to go in and delete all of their student attempts or their teacher student attempts, I should say. So just wanted to explain that really quickly. So for that reason, I am going to actually enroll a test student rather than responding from the view as student option. You will see the same thing in terms of responding. It's just about what shows up in the grading tab after. So we would then share this link with our students so that they can connect to our class. They will see which class they're enrolling in, and then they can either add this to an existing account. That is what I will do. Before I do that though, let's just show what it looks like for students creating a new account. So most students, they're just going to end up signing in with Google. Otherwise, they can do the sign in with Apple or fill out the form on the right-hand side so that they have an account. So let me back up. We'll add this to my existing account. And we'll sign in. Oh, I forgot to change this. So I have a student paid class, which is one of our options. So let me just enter my coupon here. Okay, buy now. There we go. So now I get my congratulations message. I am now enrolled in Extempore 101. Now for students, they can be downloading our mobile app, either using a mobile device or a tablet. So that can be on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Otherwise, if they're completing assignments on a desktop, they would be just be using a browser, and we do recommend Google Chrome for that. So we'll go to the student portal. Now for this student, I'm enrolled in a bunch of classes. Majority of students are probably just going to be enrolled in a single class. So they'll just open that class up. And then going from the top down, there'll be these different folders here, all based on the dates that you've set up. So if it's within the due dates, it'll show as active. Once the student completes it, it'll move to the completed folder. Otherwise, past, due, and future, both related to when you've set those start dates and due dates and how that's going to display. In terms of the future tab, students cannot access any information. They can just see that the assignment is coming up, but they can't see any questions or details about it until the date hits. So we'll open up our first assignment. Question 1. Now for this one, I have as much time as we need, so we'll just play the video. Hey students, we'll be using Extempore this semester. Please introduce yourself in your native language and explain how you learn best. Okay, so now for this one, whenever the student is ready, they'll just hit record. Otherwise, they could continue to play this back if they wanted to. For the single attempt, that does imply that they can only listen to the video and audio a single time before they attempt so that they cannot over-prepare. So we'll record. My name is Sam Slagle. I learn best through visual aids. So we'll stop. Now the student can play back their response. My name is Sam Slagle. I learn best through visual aids. If they're happy with that, they can just submit. Otherwise, they can re-record as many times as they would like before they do submit that through to you. Even when it is multiple attempts like this, once a student submits, it's not like they can come back to the same question and continue to record different versions of it, because at some point you need to receive something if you're going to be able to, or if you want to provide a grade and feedback. So we'll submit that through. Now that one is moved to my submitted folder, and we have our 3 questions remaining here. So number 2, this is the first example of a lockable question. We have 15 seconds to review, and we have 60 seconds to respond. So we'll say okay. Now again, whenever audio or video is included and you do have time to review, the time to review will not begin until the student has listened to this entire clip. And then you'll also notice once I hit play that all of the controls will get disabled, so the student cannot pause, rewind, or repeat this audio clip here. Please tell me who Mariana is speaking with and who Juana is speaking with, and go into detail on what those 2 individuals are wearing. Okay, so now this 15-second timer starts to count down. If you're brand new to Extempore, I wouldn't recommend timers for the first assignment with students. It does get a little nerve-wracking, but it does have a purpose when you're ready for those actual assessments. So now that that's hit 0, our recording has begun. So we'll expand the image. Mariana is speaking with Edith. Juana is speaking with Omar. Edith is wearing a white shirt with a black sweater. Omar is wearing a green t-shirt with a white sweater around his neck. So we'll stop. And now the only option is to submit. I can listen back, but let's say the student isn't happy with that response and they try to back out. They're going to get another warning here to let them know that this is a lockable question. So if they do proceed, the submission is not being captured and it will show as a locked attempt for the grading tab. Now for question 3, this has the same exact limitations, but now there's no video or audio. So as soon as the student opens this question, that time to review begins counting down immediately. And they do not need to wait for this timer to end if they're ready. They can just hit record. Okay, so now we'll start forming a sentence using the vocabulary, and then we'll hit stop, and we'll submit that one through. Now to our last question, that was the multiple choice one. Again, this could be video or audio options on either the question or all of the different option or answer side as well. Also, it is randomizing these options. So Sunny was the first option I had added. For this student, it is showing up as the 3rd option though. So we'll select that. Now the student gets a congratulations message. They come back to their activities. And now it has moved this from the active folder to the completed folder. If we click in, now the student can see that everything is submitted. As soon as the grades and feedback are provided, then this will turn to graded, and all of these tiles will show in green so that the student knows it's time to go into review. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to use the copy feature. So I'm going to copy this assignment. We'll just say second assignment. So when you're copying, you could be copying these to the same class you're working with, or you could copy them to any other class within your account. Very similar to that with this paper airplane icon is actually our send a colleague feature. So rather than copying an assessment to your account, it allows a colleague to import that assessment into their account and utilize with their class. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm just going to go into the account preferences. There are a few features just related to integrity that I do want to enable here, and then just show what that student experience looks like if we do have these options on. So first would be safe mode. This is doing a few things. So it's disabling students' ability to download any of the audio or video files to their computer. And then it's also disabling them from being able to copy the text that you've entered for the question to potentially paste it into Google Translate. So that's another thing it's disabling. And then the third thing that it's doing is we call it, it's kind of a cheating prevention. It's very similar to a lockdown browser, but it's more of just a student navigation warning. So if a student navigates away from Extempore during a single attempt question, then they're going to get a warning next time they come back to the page. And then for you as the teacher, you're going to see in the grading tab how many times the student navigated away during that question. So I will show what that looks like here. But then I'm also going to disable accepting late work, which really just hides the past due tab from students. So let's save that. I'm going to come back in as a student here. Let's refresh. And then we'll just come back into our class. Okay, so now the difference from a student's perspective is they can no longer see the past due and future tab. They can just see what's active and what's completed. Now we'll click into our assignment, and then I'm just going to go right into one of the single attempt questions, because that's really where the difference lies once we have that safe mode enabled. So we'll click in. So now students will see this attention. Your teacher will be notified for each time you click away from this page or open a new tab. So now let's say the student wants to copy this text. They cannot do so to try to paste it out. So that's another way to protect the ability to cheat. Now we'll open a new tab. We'll come back to Extempore. And now the student gets a warning message letting them know that we just detected that they left the page. They do need to acknowledge this to then continue. And based on them taking that action, that is what is going to display the count for how many times they've left the tab for you as the teacher in the grading tab. So we'll just do a quick dummy response for this one, just so it's going to show up. Test, test. And now I am going to flip it back to the instructor view. So where the classes tab, it's really where you're managing your students and your assessments. The grading tab is where all the responses are going to show up, and then where you obviously grade, provide feedback for those submissions. So we'll go to that now. We'll filter to our Extempore 101 class. And now we have our two assignments here. So something to note is, let's say you create a new assignment and you come right into grading and you don't see it here. So assignments, they're not going to show up until you've collected at least one submission from a student. So that would be the reason why you might not be seeing an assignment in grading if you are. Did I just lose audio? Can someone let me know, is the audio? My earbuds just blinked on me. It's working now. Okay, thank you, Ursula. Okay, great. So yeah, again, really just wanted to show with this one, the navigation warning, that's the one difference between the second assignment and the first one. So then we'll just tab back here. Now we're seeing our first assignment. And then we have Tony Stark, who's my student, and then Tony's 4 questions below that were responded to. Now there are 2 options here. So right now I would be grading this one student, all 4 questions. Otherwise, you can flip the order if you would rather grade question 1 and then all students who have responded to question 1, so you don't have to keep refreshing your memory on maybe what the prompt was. Based on feedback, that's what most teachers do prefer, is the question by question grading. For my purposes with just a single student, it is a little bit easier to just go through my 4 questions here. So we will play back the student attempt. My name is Sam Sliggle. I learn best through visual aids. Okay, so after we've listened, we can give a quick score based on the rubric that was provided. You can also give written feedback, audio feedback, or video feedback. I'll do that for question number 2, where we have a little bit of a longer response. So we'll just submit and go to the next. Our recording has begun, so we'll expand the image. Mariana is speaking with Edith. Juana is speaking with Omar. Edith is wearing a white shirt with a black sweater. Omar is wearing a green t-shirt with a white sweater around his neck. Okay. So you do have the ability to speed up the playback speed. We are retaining the tone of voice for students so that they're not sounding like a chipmunk when you do speed that up. So it is a nice little efficiency. I do speak pretty quickly as is, so I'll give a quick example here at 1.3 times. Our recording has begun, so we'll expand the image. Mariana is speaking with Edith. Juana is speaking with Omar. Edith is wearing a white shirt with a black sweater. Omar is wearing a green t-shirt with a white sweater around his neck. Okay. So again, we'll just give a quick grade on this one, give some feedback, and then we'll also give some audio feedback as well. Now for feedback, for both video and audio, there's 2 ways to go about giving the feedback. The first way, I could just hit record, give my flat feedback, and then use that audio. The other option is to actually provide your feedback in line with the student's response. And we do provide instructions on how to do so right here. But all you're really doing is you're starting to record to give feedback, and then you're hitting play for the student. Our recording has begun, so we'll expand the image. Now you can pause at any point, and then we can point out a pronunciation mistake or anything else that's needed, and then we'll hit play again. Mariana is speaking with Edith. Juana is speaking with Omar. Edith is wearing a white shirt with a black sweater. So now we can pause. Maybe Edith is actually wearing a blue shirt with a white sweater. So we can make that correction. And whenever we're ready, we'll just stop this recording. And then just note it. So in the instructions, step 1 is unplug your headphones. I do have someone else in the office here, so I didn't want to unplug there just for the noise volume there. Let me try to play this back, see if this does work with the headset in. You're starting to record to give feedback, and then you're hitting play for the student. So it's not going to pull in the student's response. Had I had my headset out, that is where the student's response would have been pulled in. And then they're going to be hearing each pause point with the feedback you've inserted. So we'll use that. Submit and go to the next question. Okay, so now we'll start forming a sentence using that vocabulary, and then we'll hit stop. Okay. So again, we'll give the quick grade. I'll open up the video just to show what that looks like, but really identical to the audio. Obviously just returning the video, but you can be providing the inline feedback here as well. So we'll close that, submit next. Now the next question, that was actually the multiple choice question. So it has graded itself automatically, no further action needed. So to your question earlier, Kay, now I'm ready to publish my grades. So we'll go and do that. Now, let's say after they're published, we realize we either want to edit the grade or maybe we want to edit the feedback. That's all possible. And then it's just going to update and send back to the student once that occurs. Okay, so now that everything's been published, let's just go back in as the student. Start back from the beginning. So students, they would be getting an email notification once the grades and feedback is available. And then they'll just come right back in to Extempore. Now they can see the score is available based on what was provided by you as the teacher. They can click in, see that all questions have been graded. We'll go into number 1 here. So now students can see the question and their submission on the left-hand side. Any grades or feedback would be located on the right-hand side. So if we tab to this next one, this would be the one where I did include the feedback as well as, or the audio feedback and the written feedback. And then we can just continue tabbing to review each one of the other or additional questions there. So let's see. Okay, so we have about another 25 minutes. So everything I've shown so far is related to the individual type of assignment. So we've now created a class, we've created an assignment with 4 questions. We've shown what that assignment looks like from a student's perspective when safe mode's enabled and when it's disabled. So kind of the next piece to go into would be the different group functionality built into Extempore. So we do have two options there. One would be asynchronous groups. So it's more like a discussion board where the learner might come in 5 minutes to an hour, even a day later than the previous student to then listen and then respond. The other option is synchronous groups where students are connecting more similar to a Zoom breakout room. And then they're recording that synchronous session for you to then listen and grade afterwards. For the synchronous one, it is actually combining, it can be either 2 to 4 students, and then it's going to combine those into a single video file so that you're seeing a grid of up to 4 students all on the one window here. So let's go and give an example of that. So first I'm going to show what the synchronous groups will look like. So we'll say 101 sync group. We'll select our group. We'll say yes for synchronous. So this is where we can select how many students should be in each one. I'm just going to say 4. It will automatically organize your students into the groups based on how many you've determined here. So if you have a class of 20, then we would have 5 groups of 4. Now, if you do have an odd number of students, you can always view the rooms after they've been generated automatically. And then you can manually move students to a different group. So to kind of expand on what I mean there is you might have a class of 21 students and you might want groups of 2. So you would start here, but then when you manually adjust, it does allow you to override what was set. So you might have one group of 3 and then all other groups of 2 within this one. Show all parameters. So a little different from the options below here. So we can still determine when grades are going to publish. We can also add a rubric. You will be grading or scoring each individual student for this one. The part that is missing is the time limitations, since there is no need for that now that we have students connecting live synchronously for this. So we'll hit next. Now, rather than creating a set of questions, you're really just creating a single prompt for students. So when they connect, they can then start the conversation around this prompt. So I'm going to upload an image. So it's just one of those images where there's 7 differences between the 2 sides. So we'll just say spot the differences with your group. And then we will hit launch. Okay, so I am in a different class here than I was previously for our Extempore 101. Now of course, these do not need to be in separate classes. This is just for the demo purposes. But then we can see this will show up just like any other assignment. And then you can click view rooms. That will allow you to see how the students were grouped. And then you can hit the 3 dots to move students to a different group. Now for this one, I just have a single group. So that would be the reason if you do have an odd number of students to start with groups of 2 so that you have those additional room options to then be adding additional students to. So we'll save that. And then I'm just going to log in as 2 different students. While doing so, you're actually going to see another kind of mini IT feature. So when you have your list of students who have enrolled, there's this little eye icon, which actually allows you to log in directly as that student or into their account. So if a student is saying they don't see that this assignment is active, now you can just do a quick check, let them know that it is active, or maybe they brought up a good point that maybe it is now past due and you're not allowing past due work so that maybe they're not seeing it. So it's just a nice quick tell there. So we will log in as Goofy and Donald Duck. Okay. So I'm going to connect to the waiting room, and then I can see myself on camera. I can see my microphone signal is looking good, but now I'm also waiting to see that my other group members are showing in green as online before I go to the room. Now I can always go to the room before that. We do leave a little warning message here, because if a student does enter the room, the recording begins as soon as that first student joins. So there is a chance they might eat up that recording time. So just best practice is to advise students to show at least one other member online before you do connect. And this page will refresh automatically every 30 seconds to then fetch new information for other students. So we'll come in as the other student now. So looks like I can see that Goofy is online already. So I'm going to go to the room. I'm going to mute myself immediately so that we don't get the interruption. There we go. Okay, so I'm connected here. The recording has started, and the max recording for these synchronous rooms is 10 minutes. So now we'll navigate back as the other student. We can see that Donald Duck is online, so we're going to go as well. All right, so we're muted on there, so there shouldn't be any sound interruption now. And then we can expand this image, so that will show for half of the screen here. And it looks a little funny being that you're seeing two of myself, but again, this could be up to 4 students. So then they'd have the grid there. Now we would just be spotting the differences, and we have those 10 minutes until this room closes. So whenever we're done, we will just submit. Come into this one, drop out as well. And then because it is merging those videos into a single video file, the synchronous group recordings do take slightly longer than all other recording types on Extempore, which you should expect to show up immediately. As soon as it's submitted, it should display in grading. So for these ones, just to help with that so that you know that maybe something has been submitted, but you're just waiting for that to become available. We'll navigate in. We have our 101 sync group. So just by the fact that these 2 names show as ungraded, we know that they did connect for this conversation, but we can see here that the video is still being prepared, depending on processing time. The times may vary. Generally, I see 5 to 10 minutes before those show up here. So then you can move on and maybe grade some of the individual ones first. Now, let me give a quick example, though, of one that does have the submission. There we go. So I'll just play a portion of this back. This was the same exact prompt that I just shared. And then you can see that 3 of us group members had connected. Karen, good question. So the question from Karen is, can you group students from different classes? Currently, you cannot. So it does need to be within each class. That is something on the future roadmap. But right now, the way Extempore works, it's kind of like a Russian doll, where you have that class as your big doll. As you open it up, everything's really contained to that class in terms of students and assignments. So that is something we do plan on unwrapping in the future. If that is going to create an issue, the kind of workaround right now would maybe be to just have a group class in your account where you have all of your class students enrolled. And then you just handle or use the other classes for your individual work. So there are a few that are doing that. If you do go that route, just communicate that with our team so that we can make a note on your account so that you're not consuming additional licenses with that type of use case there. So I'll just play a little bit of this one. See my old hair.
Hey, Donald.
Hey, Daisy.
Oh, hey, Daffy. All right, it looks like we're supposed to expand the image and then spot the 7 differences. When you spot a difference, be as specific as possible so that we can explain what is the difference here.
Oh my.
So,
Okay, so I'll stop it there. I'm sure you get the idea. So now in terms of grading, providing feedback, right now I am selected on Donald Duck. So that's the grade and feedback I'd be providing here. Otherwise, I can select Daffy Duck. It's going to be the same exact video each time, but the grades and feedback below are going to go to each individual student here. One thing that I did forget to mention, whether it's group or individual type of assignment, there might be a case where a student recorded something and you would like them to redo that question without needing to create a brand new assessment for them. So if that ever is the case, you can just click on the trash icon here. That will allow you to reset the response, and you can also notify the student that it has been deleted. Then they can jump right back into the question to respond again. Save that. And then I have the asynchronous example built into a different account. So let me open that one up. Okay. And then let's log in as Peter Pan here. So in terms of the setup is identical. The only difference is you're selecting asynchronous opposed to synchronous. And then let's open this up, our paired assignment. So now this is what this would look like for students. So you're still just providing just a single prompt for them. And then based on which student comes in first, which in this case was Peter Pan, then they're basically reading or listening to that prompt to begin their response. Stephanie Lopez came in about 4 minutes later and then listened to Peter's response as she submitted hers. So that's kind of what the asynchronous one would look like. Now, this one's been here for a little bit over a year now, where the synchronous one just was developed during COVID because of how many requests we got for something like that. We just kept hearing that the Zoom breakout rooms were falling short because you can drop into the rooms, but you can't record all the rooms. So that was kind of a gap we were trying to fill. Since we've developed the synchronous one, I'd say it's definitely much more used than the asynchronous piece. But it's nice to know that this is here as well. There's definitely some good use cases for doing asynchronous, which might be just some type of ongoing type of assessment, so that students just have more opportunity to speak when maybe you or other students aren't available, and just coming to listen and plug in a response. So I'll play the first two here, just so you can hear how that started and what Stephanie commented on.
Hi, this is Peter Pan from Neverland Travel Agency. I'm looking forward to helping you plan your dream vacation. To get started, please let me know if you'll be traveling with others and who those individuals are, or if you'll be traveling by yourself.
Hey, Peter Pan. Thanks for helping out. I'm excited to get planning with you to plan our dream vacation here. So I will actually be traveling in a group. I'll be traveling with my family, my mother, my father, as well as my 2 children and my wife.
So then we just go back and forth from there and complete the conversation. So let's see here. Other than that, so in the bottom right of each one of your accounts, we do have our help center loaded right in. And then based on the page you are currently selected on, so right now I'm inside of a class, which viewing the list of assessments is kind of the most logical step here. So that's where we do provide the assessment 101, just quick help information. You can always live chat with our team here as well. And then let's see, for anybody who does not have an account and will be creating one soon, there is a onboarding tour where your screen will kind of gray out. It'll tell you, point to different things to click on. Essentially in about 10 minutes, that will then cover most of what we covered in the first 30 minutes of this webinar. So there is a little refresher built right into the platform when you do get to that point. And then other than that, we just launched our new marketing website. And part of this is some different grab and go activities. And we do have a partnership with Avant as well. So if you're looking for any Avant seal by literacy type of assignments, those can be located here. So we right now have Spanish, French, and Chinese, and then we'll continue to expand on that. So if you are looking for content that is already created, this would be a great space to just import, test those out for the practice. Otherwise, the grab and go tasks that were built by our team internally are a little bit more robust. So say we keep it on English, drop this down. So we just tell you a little bit more information, how many questions, if you should expect to have timers, and what the response types were. So just another good option there if you are looking for some pre-made tasks. And that is something we plan on expanding on in the future with more of a community of users, giving you the ability to share to the broader community and receive from there. So I believe that is everything that I had planned to share here. So it looks like we have about 9 minutes left. So I'll open it up. If there are any questions or anything else the group would like to see here, I'd be happy to share. Karen, good. So our assignments archived for future use. So right now, all the assignments in the class, once students respond to them, so let's say I know I have responses for this one, we don't yet have that ability, and it's also not going to allow you to delete them until the responses are gone. So that is something on our list to be able to archive assessments just to keep things organized. I'm not exactly sure on when the delivery date will be on that. So generally, you would have a class for that school year, and then best practice would be to actually archive the class at the end of the school year. So then you start with a new fresh class, again, the next one. But then at that point, you can also be copying any of the old assessments over to the new one. So as it stands right now, though, you would kind of expect to just have a full running list of all the assessments relevant to that class for that year. Okay, so can you use different time limitations for different questions within one assignment? Yes, so that's exactly how I had set that one up. So let's see, I can show that again. So as we add an assignment, test one, right here, per question is where you can override those limitations. So definitely, especially if you're kind of new to Extempore, students are new to Extempore, again, I never recommend timers for the very first one. So the first one, maybe do untimed, just get them speaking, even if it's in the native language, so that they're getting used to Extempore. And then try to introduce them, and then maybe the second or third one, where maybe the first question is, this is your last example of an untimed question. Get ready for the following that will be timed and lockable. Because it's also nice for students to hear that you're probably going to make mistakes. Just don't stop this recording, because really you're just trying to capture their knowledge without them going and looking up an answer. That's really what it's helping with. There is also a explanation video at the bottom of each page too. So if you ever need a refresher on that, you can watch another quick little how-to video. Okay, yeah, overriding limitations, I don't remember the exact date, but it wasn't here last year. So yes, throughout this last school year, that was something that did get added. So, and that's where we do have plans to kind of keep unwrapping the platform as well. So like another example would be when you are creating that assessment for the first time, you're determining how should students be responding, either video, audio, or text. So of course, we know there's times where you might want one assessment that has some text questions, some audio, some video. So that's another part of the future plan, to just unwrap and allow different response types per question as well. But right now, the way that most teachers, or I see them handle that, is just having a part 1, part 2 for that test. Maybe part 1 is speaking, part 2 is writing. But you can also make multiple choice regardless of those response type. Karen, can you do conversations like in the AP exam? So I believe you're referring to like the simulated conversations. So yes, to answer the question. Now let me see if I can find this resource quickly on our new marketing website. Let's see, where did the blog go? The website just launched this week, so I'm still getting used to it as well. I'm trying to locate our blog where we actually have a article written on how to handle AP. Oh, from our blog. Let's see if this gets me. Okay, I need to learn how to navigate our new website clearly. Two more. Okay, so AP simulated conversation. Here we go. So I'll drop this one in the chat as well. So basically what students are doing for that is very similar to how I was able to provide the inline feedback for the student. Granted, I did keep my headset in, but students are basically able to record their response while they're listening to your audio. So that way you might have those different pause points built in. So you're hearing the audio, then you hear that pause point or the beep. That's when the student then speaks, and then continues it from there. Let me see if there is, let's see, a quick video maybe here. It is unavailable. So Karen, yeah, I'll post that one. And if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer more questions, maybe via email. I'm gonna have to notify the team though, because we do have the how-to video. Must have just lost it when we transitioned the site over here. There we go. Oh, and we do have a template for importing AP with Spanish and Chinese. Okay, got about 2 minutes left. Are there any other questions from the group? Otherwise, again, there's a lot more sessions coming up here. So if you haven't already, maybe go check out the list to see if anything else catches your attention. Our community manager, Grant, who's also a Chinese teacher, will be responsible for running a lot of the other ones, where I'm more focused on just the technology functionality. He'll go into some more real use cases and how he utilizes Extempore with his students. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending. I hope this was helpful and I hope you have a good rest of the day. The video will be posted as soon as we get the download from this as well. Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it. Enjoy your day, everybody.